Ladies and gentlemen, have you guys seen the cost of new fencing these days? The cheapest I can budget it out is $10 a linear foot. It doesn't sound like much until you suddenly need 80 feet as a starting point. That's 800 bucks for that. Think about it. A linear foot. You probably got a couple hundred feet of fencing that you need. Times 10, gang. The new fence panels, pre-made, cost about 70 bucks. And they don't look half bad. They're kind of bright, they look alive, you know? A place that doesn't feel like, well, like you're standing right outside a haunted house. So today I'm determined to come up with some fencing that, even if I can't beat 10 bucks a linear foot, isn't gonna look like this. At an absolute minimum, I've got 80 feet of fencing that I need to redo. Not that this stuff was ever good, but it's now significantly worse after I had some trees taken out, and it is just basically gotten totally destroyed. It never looked good, but it used to be the property boundary, and it used to kind of keep stuff out or in depending on what side what critter was on. From where we're standing to the garage is roughly 80 feet. That's if I do everything myself and buy pre-made panels to try to work efficiently. That's going to cost me 800 American dollars. I hate paying retail for anything, and unfortunately the used fencing market looks like that. So we've got to come up with a replacement fencing system that costs no more than $10 a linear foot, the stuff that you can buy at the store, but hopefully will hold up way better, way longer, and just look better for the duration. This to me just feels like something else I got to do. Clean it, pressure wash it, stain it, replace it. I don't know. I don't want it. It's a fence. I just need it to fence. Here's our little prototype design. We're going to use some R-panel roofing because I got a ton of it laying around. Some 2x6s, some 2x4s, and some 4x4 posts. It's a simple design, and I need it to look decent on both sides because, well, I'm trying to keep a happy neighbor. Welcome back to Between the Sharks. Here we go. So believe you me, team, if I had lousy wooden fence where I have what I believe to be wire mesh for concrete sort of falling down along the property line, I would leave well enough alone. I probably wouldn't even try to clean it up, stain it, bleach it, any of those things. I would just let it ride because we have bigger fish to fry out here at the ranch. However, that's not the world we're living in. Not only is this in poor condition and looking terrible and falling down, we're doing a lot of work over here on the property. That means two things: construction materials. Construction materials mean tools, and on top of that, like, I got it as an unsightly mess right now. So it should grant us some privacy, a little bit of security, and hopefully keep the neighbors happy. Speaking of keeping the neighbors happy, mark your property line. This string is indeed the property line that divides my scrap heap from the neighbor's nicely maintained property. We've had a bunch of conversations. I put this string up ahead of time. We talked it over. I said, is this where you see it on the survey? And he said, yeah, that looks about right to me. He knew full well that this fence was set back a couple of feet. If you think you're gonna end up in an argument with your neighbor about things, you wanna argue with them when it's in this stage, not when it's in the completed stage. It's not cheap. That's why we're here, gang. We gotta knock these mulch piles back. This is what's left of tree stumps. Got one here, one down at that end. This is work that could be done with a shovel, but we're gonna pull the mini skid steer out because, well, we invested in that tool and we're gonna get our money back out of it. So over the course of this project, we're gonna be using this mini excavator with the auger attachment, which we use also on this lean-to dig our post holes. It's a huge time saver. Going over here to grab the mini skid steer to move those mulch piles, and I'll tell you what, all this could absolutely be done by hand. I worked many, many hours to save up to afford these machines, and hopefully, over their lifespan, they will pay me back in time savings. That was a few hundred pounds of mulch taken care of in a matter of seconds, which is really why I bought those machines. I mean, the utility is proving beyond my expectation on those machines, that's for sure. So in an effort to come up with a fence design, A, that I liked, and B, was more durable, and C, would come in cost effectively with materials on hand, I started looking at that R panel. A lot of people are using metal panels for fencing these days, and I thought that's a pretty good idea, and it gives you horizontal lines, which tend to look a little better than the vertical lines in my humble opinion. Also, we're dealing with a ranch house here, so it has like that lower profile, so horizontal lines will look better overall on the property. As one experiment, I put 2 panels together, and it feels like you're either driving down the highway and these are noise barriers, or you're in District 9. And let your mind's eye erase that insulation that's stuck to this thing. But this is essentially the idea. 10-foot spacings using 2x lumber and an R panel. And I think with this kind of gray, if we can stain the wood a brown with some orange in it, the blue and the gray is gonna really kind of show up against that orange tone in a brown. So I think this is the deal. So we need to space our posts every 10 feet. I've done the math on it, and using 2x material is not going to cost any more than the pre-made fence panels, and should last way longer, resist warping, and just feel more substantial. So I'm working on creating a story stick right now, which is basically a stick that's the same length as my intervals. You should check your dimensional lumber though. It's usually a little long. This is a true 1/2 inch long, so we're gonna mark it at 10 feet. There we go, right, Challenger is 10 feet. Now an auger like this is not a scalpel, it's more of a hatchet. So close is gonna be pretty good for what we're doing here. So I've got my board at 1 foot, running along my string. We go ahead and mark this at 11 feet, which will give us our 10-foot sections. At my arrow, a full 3.5 inches in from the property line. If I dig the center of my hole here, in theory, my post will be a couple of inches on my side of the line. There we go. Should be close enough. All right, so it's just about hole making time. I've never done this before, so my theory is, if I've got everything on 10 feet or a little bit less, my 10-foot material can always be trimmed down. It's already a 1/2 inch over. And my 20-foot material can always overlap just a fuzz, and no one will ever be the wiser. But we'll figure out if I screwed this up after it's set in concrete. We are lined up on our first mark. We're kind of just gonna have to play the tree root lottery, because this thing will break them depending on where they are. But we've got trees all the way along this line that will eventually have to be removed, but cash money, man, we just don't have it right now. So we're doing projects that we can do for low budget with tools on hand. Let's dig a hole. Off to a rocky start. Oofta. I guess we'll be hitting this with a pickaxe first. See if we can get through it, because this is not a good start. So here we go. We got the inaugural run on this bad Mamma Jamma. I actually broke my other one and picked this up very recently. I mean, I'm just bragging on these machines about how much time they save, but then here we are, you know, immediately pulling out the pickaxe. If I didn't buy this thing, I definitely would have bought the cheap Harbor Freight auger, gas powered, and that thing would have taken me for a ride. Where are you? Which tree are you anyway? Need a better plan of attack, because I'm going to run into trouble all the way along here. Essentially, if I split the difference and move my marks, I'll actually get further away from some trees, maybe? It's really hard to say. Maybe we're just going to shift over. All right, we are in downtown Hasselville right now, and we are just hitting the stuff. I can't get a hold of to save my life. Don't underestimate tree roots, gang. They hold up these big honking things. There we go. All right, that'll do the trick. And apparently my hose is broken, so we'll get a repair kit at some point. This particular post concrete says put some water in the bottom of the hole, which does actually make sense to me. We'll add some concrete after that. styling. No whammies, no whammies. I feel like we did pretty good. Got to dig out the loose stuff, but we got a hole. So the tool like this big honking thing, this could be a 20-minute job, but if we keep hitting roots, we could be here all day. If roots was pay dirt, we'd be in the money. All right, sports fans, we got pretty lucky, I would say. We only got stumped on the first one. Get it? It's a roots joke. Well, at this point, we just gotta let everything get set up, but I can already feel how much better it's gonna be than this terrible wire fence. All right, I gotta get this guy put away. Speaking of this guy, I have never used an auger besides the one on this one, and I've only used the auger on this one for this project and that lean-to project. They seem very helpful, and they keep you away from the business end of it. I've had a drill get caught on something and whack me in the face. Can't imagine how much worse it would be if you were using a gasoline-powered auger by yourself and that thing decided to whip around on you. It'd be bad news. The research, the investment, and a bit of the gamble, because there wasn't a ton of information about these things when I bought them, is all paying off so far. For both efficiency and safety, really. We gotta make a run to the lumber yard, which is my least favorite thing to do. We'll see when we get some new stuff. Well, it looks like I'm already here. I wonder if this lumber is gonna stay or if it's gonna spill itself everywhere. If this lumber doesn't come out here and clobber me, I'll be shocked. All right, let's see if it'll do it. Gotta fill the carburetor. Okay. Okay, let's lower the bed before we forget. Need new belts on this thing. Let's reverse. Oh, gang. All right. Yeah, we got a little bird in the under the hood area there. It started acting a little funny, but I thought I'd killed the transmission, which I'm pretty thrilled if it was just out of gas. So we'll fill it up and our gas can here shortly. We got to do the vehicle shuffle. For some reason, I jumped on the rescue skateboard to get back over here, which worked out all right. I didn't even need it, but I haven't been on a skateboard in 10 years. So considering the day I'm having, I should be bruised and bloody and probably have like a broken wrist. I'm not like AJ, man. I can't do any neat tricks, but I still skate Mongo. All right, here we go. Failure is imminent, gang. That is the motto here at Between the Sharks. I don't know when, I don't know how, but man, somewhere between the starting point and the finish point, we are gonna, we're gonna get it handed to us, or we're gonna quite often hand it to ourselves, like not putting gas in the truck. Can't really blame anybody for that one, except me. All right, we got everything leaned up. It has got to dry out a little bit. My goal is to stain it ahead of time. It's pushing the process a little bit because this should probably dry out for like a couple weeks, but we're not gonna do that. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I've got a good feeling about it. I guess I could have run out of gas in way worse places, and without a doubt, running out of gas is about the best way to break down. It's the cheapest fix. I've also run a string line basically level as low as I could get it, and that will be the bottom of my bottom piece. So I got a new box of screws. These things are worth more per pound than gold these days. I was gonna buy the 25-pound box, but I couldn't afford it. So there we are. That's a lot of money right there in screws. So I'm starting from the bottom up, staining as I go. I'm a one-man operation, and yes, it might be more efficient if I set up a workspace, stained everything, and then started installing. But this is real life here, and I don't want to take the time to set up a workspace. If you've got a little buddy who can stain behind you, well then, good on you, pal. We don't. So we're gonna go ahead and work with what we got, which is me. So we're gearing up to play a little jazz here. If you're talking to a client, that's a conscious design decision. We're gonna use a 2x4 for this section where it gets really high, and then run our 2x6s this away. Yep, somebody with an eyeball may notice, but in this case, I'm just trying to suit myself. I'm gonna level off the high spot, plus a 2x4, and then I'm gonna run my line this way, and it will be what it will be. All right, we got a little daylight still left, despite our fumbles. I'm gonna turn on an episode of Car Talk. Helps me out when I'm like stressed and anxious and frustrated. What do you guys do? All right, sports fans. I mean, I don't know if it's your cup of tea, but I'm kind of digging it. But he's got the white side and it's all stained too. I would debate that almost even looks better, but if that's the case, I'll go ahead and I'll paint my side if necessary. Don't know what we're doing color palette wise on the house or anything, but the blue facing this side matches the blue roof and the, you know, blue that we've already installed. So, all right, I'm gonna stain some more wood and I'm gonna keep going down my path because I'm happy with where it's going. Well, team, the sun is going down. One more fall day on the books. I'm really tired. I wanted to get everything stained tonight, but I got to a point where I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go hang out with the dogs. We are going to come back tomorrow. We'll be able to stain the rest of our boards and install the rest of our pieces, take out our old fence and assess, decide if we're happy with it. If we're happy with it, then we walk away. If we're not, we figure out what we would like more better. 3, 2, 1, time travel. All right, gang, we're back. It's early. Got a couple little brown dog coffee and I'm feeling better today. Less stressed out for no reason. I don't know why that happens, but gang, it does, no matter how useless it is. I like it. I'm happy with it. Let's finish it. All right, I'm gonna try to show you a little bit of a tip here. So the way that I cut things out in the field with a circ saw, and this is a good idea whether you're new or old school at it. A, you want a square cut, but B, it'll keep your hand away from the cut. So I line my saw blade up, and then you slide the speed square over, and that becomes your guide. I can hold it with this hand, right? And that keeps this hand away from the business end of the saw. Mind where your thumb is. You could do this wrong if you really tried. Semi-pro tip. All right, so everything is finally stained. Yes, I'm ignoring best practices. In theory, this should probably have dried out a little more, but ain't nobody got time for that. I'm gonna use a 2x4 spacer between my next rows, and hopefully our design is gonna look real pretty like. Not a bad look from the neighbor's side. It's a really good starting point. I think it's pretty elegant. Neighbor's seen it, he approves, and that's great to know. You just don't want trouble where you don't need any trouble, is what I'm saying. So I'm loving it. It's looking way, 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 way better already, despite the fact that we have nothing but litter and trash out here, which is one of the things we're trying to, you know, keep out of prying eyes, because it just, there's nothing about that that invites good company. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of doing it your way, you should do as much research as you can and come up with as much of an understanding of your project as you possibly can. But there's always going to be somebody about hassling you about how you got to do it right. Well, here's the thing. Wrong is a little more clear, but there are a lot of versions of right out there. Right for me means on my timeline, at my budget, at my quality level. That's what's right for me. And that's usually a compromise. There's some things you got to do by the book, and there's some you just don't. This, for example, happy with the design, price is right. Somebody's gonna say it'll never last, or over a 10-foot span, everything's gonna twist. And it might. If it does, I'll fix it, or I won't. If it blows over, we'll have a good chuckle. It doesn't mean I'm doing things haphazardly. It means I think this is gonna work. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. And if it doesn't, well, I'm gonna learn something. What I'm not gonna do is spend a ton more money, or a ton more time at work trying to make money to get somebody else's definition of right. So in order to solve this last little bit here, I overlapped this 20-foot sheet rather than cutting it because I kind of like the design, and maybe one day in the future we'll continue down that direction. But for right now, this solves our crappy falling down wire fence problem and our privacy issue. We'll close this little gap with some of the free fence that I got. Even though it's not my favorite thing, we're not going to rebuild this whole deal. This area is a bit of a disaster. We've been doing many projects and not really cleaning up. So I'm going to pull this wire fence out, then we'll take a look at our final product. Ladies and gentlemen, huh? It's looking way better, even though the yard's not cleaned up at all. Still, it's just much better. So we're gonna break down the cost in two ways. We're gonna do the overall cost, and we'll do the what it costs compared to fence panels such as this that you buy at the home improvement store. Again, they all end up looking like this. So I designed this to put posts every 10 feet. We've got 3 2x6s, 1 2x4, all at 10 feet for each section plus the metal. So the 2x6 is 10, 2x4 was $6, and then another 10. So that's $36 in horizontal wood running back and forth this way. The metal I got at $30 a sheet. It's a 20-foot sheet, so half of that is 15. That's roughly $50 for each 10-foot section. I'm ignoring the post cost and the concrete cost because there is even more savings there. If you bought fence panels, you would need to put those in exactly the same way. They cost, I think, about 10 bucks a post, and then a bag of concrete's like $6, something like that. But that is for any fence system. You're gonna need to put in some kind of upright. So true cost comparison, this is 80 feet of fence. We are in at 120 in metal panels and 36 per section, and it's 8 sections at 10 feet. So that's an additional $288 in material, which takes us to $408 to get this done. But if I'd gone with the traditional fence panels, we would have needed 10 of those to run 80 feet at $70. That's $700. So this was 300 bucks cheaper. On top of that, you would have needed additional posts and additional concrete. So it's almost 50%. It's still assembled pretty quickly because it's not that many pieces overall when you consider it. I like this design a lot better. Don't let the options at the big box stores be the only options that you can come up with. Do some research, get creative, come up with your own designs. If it's good enough for you, it's probably good enough. Use best practices that you can while you're building it, because the point of this is I want it to last. One of the reasons I was trying to avoid the standard picket fence is it just degrades so quickly in this climate. So this is all 2x material and metal roofing. Should outlast me. For the 1 or 2 of you that is concerned that the metal touching the pressure treated wood is going to cause it to corrode, I did a bunch of research on it, including from pressure treated lumber manufacturers and sheet metal manufacturers, and the consensus seems to be like, yeah, the factory paint coating should be enough. We'll see. First of all, thank you guys for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, consider subscribing, or at least check back in every now and again. We've got a lot more projects going on. And for those of you that made it to the end, well, one of the reasons I have a bunch of trash stacked up back there is both of my trucks are full. That one too. And if you guys are interested in old trucks, this one was left on the property. Sneak preview. Stay tuned. It's not looking good so far. As always, thanks for watching Between the Sharks. I really hope you guys are enjoying the variety of projects on the channel. It started more of a working on cars channel, and that's definitely still going to be a part of it going forward. But you know, when life hands you lemons, we're gonna bring you along, see if we can make some lemonade. Anyway, good luck on your projects, and we will see you next time on Between the Sharks.